to All In on Real Estate Meetup. I'm your host, Aaron Goins, and I started this meetup because when I was in the Air Force, no one in my circles talked about real estate. A lot of times, we talked about thrift savings plans, stocks and bonds, and debt. And no one, and then a lot of times when military people deploy, you see a lot more Dodge Charger pickup trucks on the road instead of appreciating value items like real estate. So I started a meetup as an educational platform for people to learn from different experts so they can build generational wealth for them and their families. So I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker, Mr. Mike Foster. Um, why I'm so excited about this is the first ever real estate podcast I listened to was active duty passive income. And it was a guy that I was like, who is this guy with the rock star music going on and all this other stuff? I'm like, man, what is it? Who is this guy? But after that, I was hooked on into the podcast. And it's something I listen to. It's one of my go-to podcasts. So Mike, man, please unmute yourself and welcome to the All In on Real Estate Meetup.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to share my story with you and help you learn and grow.
Yeah, man. So let's get started. I wanted to save a lot of time for our attendees to ask you questions and things like that, man. But I read your story. But can you just tell a little bit overview of your story and how you got into real estate?
Absolutely. So a little bit about my story kind of blends with real estate and more so how I got into entrepreneurship as a whole too. So I'll give you both of that. Grew up, in the New York City, right? A small inner city kid. So I didn't really understand this world of investing. And just like maybe many of you, I joined the military as my form of escape. And so along that time in service, I saw the service as a stable job, right? It was something that I can just kind of land in, escape from home. I can travel the world and I can build something of myself. And so I always told myself, I'm going to stay in until I see a reason to get out. And it was right after my first tour in Japan where I saw my first reason to get out. And it was this cycle of just cynicism and, negativity in the environment of the community that I was in. I saw a lot of my sailors and a lot of the Marines that were around us, at the time, they had hated their jobs, they hated their life, and they had seen all of, their friends back home living their quote unquote best life, right? And it created that longing and that desire that just made them hate showing up to work. And so as a leader, I was presented with my first challenge, and it's how do you inspire people when you have so much negativity around and they're waiting for good news from up top and it never comes? That was tough. And I had my first experience with hardship as a leader when one of my sailors threw themselves off of the 9th story barracks on base and landed in front of a family walking back from the Mongolian barbecue night on base hosted by MWR. And so as a leader, I had to ask myself, what is this, right? He had gone out on a normal night of drinking. No one saw the signs. But later on, we come to find out that his parents both had died in a freak car crash, right, back at home. And this sailor felt trapped that he didn't think that his command would let him go home to put his parents in the ground. And so it just that mindset, right, of feeling trapped and feeling alone and feeling isolated from everything, right, as a leader, how do you change that? And so coming back from my first tour, this was on my mind. And I noticed that I had very similar reactions to certain things in this cynical cycle. I would go out in town and kind of, just escape work, right? Looking for this escape. And I knew to myself at that point, I did not want to make the military a career because at that point I had seen the military as this negative environment. But when I went to my next command After speaking to my family and my mentors, right, I told myself, all right, let me at least give this next command a chance. I saw some similarities. I came into a ship that had already a lot of negativity involved on the atmosphere because of the fraternization that had gone on, the issues of sexual assault and harassment that had happened in the previous deployment. Right? And it was just a lot of the same. And so, again, as a leader, I was challenged with this decision. Is this something I want to stay in? Is there something I can make a difference in? And I remember as I was trying to exercise different things in leadership, different ways to connect with my sailors, I got criticized. I got criticized a lot. And I kept running into these same systemic issues like, oh, well, you're new here, so you get a promotion, you get a P, right? Even though I knew there were some things that I tried to do that was better than some other individuals and leaders in my command, but that was okay, right? I humbled myself and I told myself, okay, Mike, I do not want to make the military career. I need to figure out how I'm going to make the impact that I want to make on people's lives without having some of the restrictions that I feel up top. I wanted to take charge of my life and I wanted to get control of my income. So I tried a bunch of different entrepreneurship things like multi-level marketing. I tried life insurance. I tried, all these different things and they just didn't really work with me. But when I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it changed my entire life. I found real estate as this thing, this vehicle that I can use to escape this place that I didn't enjoy being in. I even found ways to use it, once I got my first deal under my belt as a way to inspire other veterans to go and try and do the same. And not so much to escape the military, right? But just to think differently, right? To think more abundantly. That maybe if I can educate veterans on how to better their lives, they can focus on the good and not the negative. And maybe their quality of life would improve. Maybe they wouldn't make the same choice that sailor made in Japan and feeling like their only option is to take their life. And so after I invested in my first deal and I found ways to make money and invest in other deals, I was presented with an opportunity to start a company called Active Duty Passive Income and to really inspire veterans on a larger scale, more than just the veterans that were in my immediate sphere and my command, but on a global level. And it's what inspired me to do the podcast, right? That Aaron mentioned. And so that was kind of my journey into real estate. And 6 years later, I found myself transitioned right on the outside. I've probably invested in a little over 2.5 million in assets at this point. I've done various different forms of deals, flips, short-term rentals, long-term holds, multifamily, and I love it. I love real estate. It is definitely something that I see myself getting into for the long term, not only to build wealth for my family, but to leave a legacy, more than just what I'm doing for my family, but a legacy that will impact veterans to come, so they don't feel like their only option is to take their life.
Wow. Man, that's heavy right there. Just those events like that. I mean, I remember an NCO taking his life, or being overseas, and just the feeling that I had, just knowing, actually talk to the person, and I mean, that's a life changing thing for a lot of people. That especially in the military, especially when you're overseas too. It's much more bottleneck. But man, that's crazy. Um, so let me ask you this: you heard my opening, what I said. When you was in the military, did anybody talk about real estate?
Now one.
Yeah. And that's something that drives me now, and I definitely want to get into um, opportunity to start a program eventually. I'm not talking about right now. I really got to get myself started, but established. But I really want to see a program where people can go on bases and have talks with our military brethren about the benefits, about their finances. It don't have to be about real estate, but our finances, because a lot of times, and we're not taught this in schools, and so many times you see the newer cars. with young airmen or young soldiers, young Marines, young sailors, because they see the flashy stuff and they want to get it right away. Did you have any experiences like that with somebody that's got into a financial pitfall because they want to buy the newest car?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a couple sailors within my division that had this, and they did the whole like Charger, right, Challenger after coming back from deployment. Even despite what my chief and myself were trying to teach them at the time, this was way after my first. This is into my second command at this point. I was already on the path of like understanding now, right? But I mean, it's what happens, right? And it's peer pressure too, because a lot of these sailors interact with different folks in different communities, and you see everyone doing it. So why can't you do it, right? That's the mentality.
Right, right, right. So let's fast forward to active duty passive income. Like I said, that's one of my go-to podcasts. You and Kevin are like yin and yang. You're more the chill type. Kevin is more the rah rah guy. I love that. I love that between you guys. And I've seen, and one thing that I've seen with interaction with him, I've seen his growth from, and also his real estate growth as well. And that's something that I think that's really cool. And I can't wait for him to be a guest speaker later on in the year. But um, what pushes you now after you do passive income? What are you guys trying to get into more?
What are we trying to get into in terms of what's coming next, or
Yeah, yeah. As far as okay, I know you guys have the the multi-family academy. You have
right?
a single family academy. Basically, you have Project Adam. But what's next for you? What's next for you, and what's next for after do passive income?
Yeah, well, I guess what's next for active duty passive income is to really hone in on mastering how well we serve our audience, right? And that really entails creating better quality in content, right? Creating more value in our coaching programs or our masterminds, right? Those really are the two focuses for us right now, because we've had a very interesting growth over the last couple of years. I mean, we've partnered with a mortgage company and created our own mortgage arm. We've partnered with realtors now in various areas, and that's still something. Those are still things that we are growing. We've started in insurance, right, for life insurance. Now we're offering that as a tool, but we are going back to the grassroots in which we started, which was focusing on the education, right? And really trying to empower more veterans to, get that education that's going to help them succeed, further in life. So that's kind of what's next for ADPI.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So, and I think that's really, really cool what you guys are doing. I'm always a big fan of ADPI. Um, let's talk about mindset in real estate. So you got into real estate, after the military, you started, doing your thing. Like you said, congratulations on the accomplishment you did so far in real estate. But what's your mindset towards it? Because I think a lot of times, and I was talking earlier to my girlfriend about this, is that a lot of times people make a lot of emotional decisions, and with a lot of things, and it can really hurt them in the
Mm.
process. What is your mindset towards real estate, as far as for somebody who might be just brand new to it, about making emotional decisions in real estate, how that can be a pitfall and can really hurt you?
Yeah, that's a really great and important question, Aaron, because that mindset around that purchase is very, very important. And you're right, a lot of people do make decisions on emotion. Honestly, everybody makes decisions on emotion, and I think that you have to understand that, going into it. And so, what do you do to keep your emotions in check so you don't end up in a bad situation? Well, the importance is to make your decision based off your emotion because it's natural, it's going to happen, but justify that decision with logic. And if the logic doesn't make sense, if the numbers don't really make sense, then you have to be able to keep your emotion in check. And sometimes, if you're not able to do that, sometimes it's beneficial to have a mentor, or to have a guide, or to have a friend, right, an accountability partner, to just give you a double check on the deal that you're looking at purchasing, right? So yeah, I love that question, and having the mindset more so of abundance too, knowing that there are, just like there are two sides to every coin, right? You have multiple exit strategies to every deal too. That was something that I had to teach myself early on in real estate. And really, it's the reason why my first purchase, which was my primary residence, ended up working out for me as an investment. Because I bought into this really nice property that was on the beach in Virginia, right in Norfolk. And it was definitely way more than I probably should have bought in real estate, but it was a good deal because of what it could do, the potential that it had, right? More so than just being able to rent where the numbers didn't quite make sense, but what I could do with executive rentals or short-term rentals, right? How I could operate that property more as a business than just a standard investment. And then how I can take the income that I made from that business and use that to invest in other properties to build more of that passive income.
I think that's awesome, man. I think that's awesome, and I think that's a great answer. Um, so can you talk about team effort? Because I tell people all the time that real estate is a team effort. It's not an individual effort, especially when you go to multifamily and things like that. But can you just talk about being part of a team? I mean, just like ADPI, you're part of a team. But can you just talk about just how important it is to be part of a team or have team members to help you progress in real estate?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. There's no way that you can be successful by yourself in real estate at a certain point. If you want to make this a profession, then you need to have a team. You need to have that attorney that can, cross-check your contracts and make sure that they are legit and you're going to be protected in the long run. You need to have that tax accountant or advisor, right? Somebody who can, give you the tips that you need to be able to save money, which really is a lot of your expenses, right? Come from taxes. Sometimes you need to have that investor or realtor or, friend that's boots on ground in the market that you're in, especially if you're military, right? Because we travel around so much, you need to be able to have those partners that can help you out when you are not physically there at the property. But yeah, teamwork is absolutely huge. And one of the things that, or one of the questions that I get often about is, how do you effectively build a team? And it comes from building relationships. You cannot be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody or to go in the car and go drive over and go meet somebody. You have to build relationships. Real estate is a relationship game. I know, Bud on this call can absolutely attest to that, right? I mean, having had so many connections with his political, decision and being mayor, right? I'm sure that the deals that he has done have opened up endless because of the team that he's built around him to be able to support that. And while he goes out on deployments, right, he has a team to be able to handle the issues that come up along the way, because they will, right? And if you only rely on yourself to get things done, sure, you might be a performer, right? You might be crushing it, but you'll still be capped at a certain point. And unless you are comfortable being capped at that point, you need to build a team in order to scale to the next level and beyond.
Right. So, saying all that, that's a great question. That's a great answer, man. You, you talking about team and stuff like that, and you talking about Bud. Me being a meetup host, you being a podcast host, how much have you grown by being a podcast host? Because I mean, you guys have interviewed so many people from Greg Cardone to Joe Smo. I mean, you guys are just you guys have interviewed everybody. So how much have you grown by just being a podcast host and being and talking to all these industry leaders like Bud and things like that?
That's a very interesting question, man, because I feel like starting this podcast was the single best decision that I've made in my business career. And it was more so than just being able to, reach out and connect with people and to share stories, but it's to also learn from everyone's story. and to see what everyone's going through, and to see how I can maybe take little pieces from everyone that I've been talking to and implement that into my own business, right? Learning how to promote the podcast, learning how to, build and scale the audience, learning how to build and scale the guests. I remember playing a very strategic chess game in getting Robert Kiyosaki on the show. I had to go to, Garrett Sutton and connect with him in order to connect with Tom Wheelwright, right, another one of his partners, to try and, get everyone who in his inner circle to talk about us. So that way, when I approached Robert and his team to get him on the show, it was a familiar, right, occurrence. It was something that he was familiar with. And I remember laughing, when Garrett had talked to me after I interviewed Tom, and he was like, "Hey, Mike, did you know that Robert's a Marine? I'm sure he would love to be on your podcast." And I smiled, and I'm like, "Yeah, I read his book. I know." But yeah, that's it, right? So it was a simple referral, and that was how I got Robert, and then from there, right, getting the credibility to get other guests. So starting the podcast helped me grow tremendously. It helped my mindset. It helped me understand that, again, business is about relationships. And so with every single guest that I've interviewed, I've had the opportunity to build a relationship with someone on the show. And I think that, there's a lot of challenges and struggles that you go through as a host too, right? I mean, there's sometimes following up is not as easy as it looks. And then also, right, there's a lot of, growing pains with the tech, right? So there's trying to figure out a tech. If you're not a tech person, which I've never really been, I've always kind of had to figure things out. There are a lot of challenges with it, but it's definitely caused me to grow in many ways in business and investing as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and yeah, you guys have done an outstanding job, man, and really highlighted a lot of people who probably won't be on different podcasts that are military, and it's great to interview people in the military and their accomplishments. And right now I've interviewed the last 3 weeks has been all military. The next 2 weeks are military as well. So I'm really happy about that. To bring out stories and things like that, man. And I
Yeah.
think you guys do an outstanding job of that. Um, okay, so before I'm gonna ask you about two more questions. I'm gonna open up for our attendees to ask you questions. I think he probably bugging to ask you questions and stuff. So with everything that you we say okay, so with everything that you have going on, as far as real estate and things like that, ADPI, everything like that. Um, what is next for you? What are you trying to maybe do large multi-family? Are you doing more short-term rentals? Like what are you moving? What are you trying to do in real estate moving forward?
So with real estate, as it pertains to real estate investing, I'm going to find myself moving more towards multifamily and even commercial and retail, right? And the reason is because with the distance that everyone has had over this past pandemic, I've been paying real close attention to that commercial retail space. And I know that folks are going to start coming together in major ways, right? In very creative ways. So as I'm looking at commercial retail, I'm not looking at the strip malls. I'm not looking at, just the standard traditional office space. I'm looking at some of those major malls, right? The ones that have experiences that people can go and enjoy, the ones that have maybe some nightlife, right? I know that folks are going to start attracting to that in some very, very big ways moving forward. So I'm actually aligning and looking more for opportunities in those spaces in real estate moving forward.
Yeah, I think people are chomping at the bit to come out and get together. I mean, just last night with the Knicks game, I saw so many people outside of Madison Square Garden after the game. It was crazy looking in the COVID era now, and so I know people are chomping at the bit to go back to normal, kind of
Right.
thing. So I think that's very, very smart. I think that's very, very smart. Last question for me, uh, for the podcast, are you? What's your guys' criteria for people to be guests on your podcast?
I mean, honestly, we look for a good story, right? So if you have a great story and you know how to tell it, that's our biggest criteria. The second is that, we would like you to have some type of military affiliation, whether you're active, you're a veteran, or maybe you're a family member. That would be great because it speaks to and connects with the audience that we serve. But it's not a hard requirement. I mean, we do bring on plenty of guests that don't have any military affiliation, but they've had a lot of experience in one particular field, and they can speak to that field very passionately, very strongly, and more so on the education side, right? They can educate the audience. So that big thing, I would say, right, having the awesome story and the ability to educate in a space that maybe we don't necessarily have a lot of is our biggest criteria, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, man, we can talk off camera about. I have two people that's on this meet. I think that'd be great. Ken Hines. So I'll open up for the audience to ask questions. So anybody, please ask Mike. Military Mike. That's what got me a little bit. I was like, who is military? Oh, okay.
Military Mike, yeah. That's it.
Hey, Mike, I got one for you.
Sure.
You mentioned like I think your first real investments were in the Virginia area when you were stationed there, and I think last time we talked or when we first met, you were moving to Hawaii, and then you were turning those into like some short-term rentals. How did you change your systems or processes like on your management style from when you were managing locally versus managing remote and in like a long-term to short-term? Like how did your systems and processes change on the management side or your business plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, while I was local, I actually did start renting them as short-term rentals while I was on deployment, right? And so, when I would come back and while I was gone, I had built a network of people around me to help me manage it when I wasn't there, and when I was there, they would kind of help fit in the gaps, right? And so that system was an aunt that I had that lived in the area, one of my friends that lived down the street, and my neighbor who was actually a very, very good handyman. So really the three of them helped me out tremendous. And I would make sure that they were kind of, taken care of with the performance of our rental. But when I left for Hawaii, I actually had a friend that was starting an Airbnb management company. And so I tried it out with him for a while. It didn't really end up working out, though. We did make some pretty decent money through it. We kept just running into a lot of issues with management, and he also didn't live in the area, even though he had a system that he was using to manage multiple different states. It was just that distance and not having the eyes on what was going on in that market. That was the biggest thing, and kept running into issues that we had. So I actually ended up passing all management responsibility to my neighbor, ironically, and he saw what we were doing together for short-term rentals at my place and fell in love with it so much that he started doing it with his place, right? And he is technically renting out from an owner, and their unit, I think, is like 4 or 5 different units. And so he convinced the owner of that property to allow him to rent one of the units out on Airbnb. And then later on, they both fell in love with it. So now they do all of it. So he's managing all of their property units, and he's managing mine, and he's loving life. I mean, he is a retired, individual. He wasn't military, right? But he's in his retirement. He is fixing problems as they come, and he says making margaritas for the guests, right, during the day. So having an awesome time there by the beach and just living a great retirement for him. So that's kind of what ended up happening with me, is finding that local manager. And that's what I recommend to anyone. If you're looking to do something business-wise and you're transitioning, I know that there are a lot of management companies out there, but I would definitely find one that's local to your market, because there are a lot of issues that do come up locally, and you want to have somebody who's in charge, right, to be able to respond to that problem and go handle it face to face. Because when they're doing it, with between third party and caretakers and all that stuff, it can get messy. It can definitely get messy. So did that answer your question? Awesome.
Mike, I got a question for you. In your training and even now, have you guys gone through a mental health first aid? Like, do you guys do any kind of like a VA mental health first aid, that type of stuff?
So for ADPI, is that what you're asking?
Well, any kind of training that you've had, I guess from what I've experienced, the VA here in Canada, they offered up to anybody that was retired a mental health first aid class, and I ended up taking it. And I discovered the value of that, not just for my buddies and people that were still serving that I'm connected to, but also for the investing community that I've worked with, because it starts talking about how like mental toughness, and there's ebbs and flows even when it comes to finance. And I've started realizing like all my Wall Street or Bay Street friends, they could really use a lot of that skills too. And I started applying a lot of the mental health stuff towards my business contacts as much as I was doing it to my VA and veteran friends. And so I was wondering,
100%.
have you had any of that kind of training, or did you guys go through any of that kind of training?
So none of us have gone through that training individually. I actually saw the need for that, and I ended up aligning myself with a nonprofit organization called Savvy, the Strategic Alliance for Veteran Integration. And they they have been through that kind of training, and they actually partner with other veteran service organizations that focus on that problem. So that was a big business decision for myself, and for the exact same reason. But I didn't know that training was offered for something that we can take. So that's actually cool. I'll have to look into that. I appreciate it. But right, so with our partnership, we refer folks that we notice that might be going through issues like that to them, and they kind of help bridge that gap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that was offered by the Canadian VA, and it's a great course. But I also realized that I applied so much of it in finance because I've had a lot of people that were really stressed out and walking people back from the ledge. And there some people, like some of my even like the investment advisors that I was coaching and training, they're just like, Ed, you're better than my therapist. And I was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really because a lot of the skills that we were applying, and it can not only make financial professionals smarter because it combines and it sort of dovetails really well if you go through the Marine Combat Hunter program. So the Marine Combat Hunter program talks about situational awareness, but also how to deal with your stress in environments. Left of Bang is a book that goes into basically based on the Combat Hunter program. But I use the same types of skills when I go and if I'm taking a look at property or if I'm trading in the day and I'm panicking, I'm freaking out because day trading can be like, I don't day trade, but I know that a lot of people that end up day trading are very stressful environments. That stuff is it's the same skill set that you need that I would use situational awareness from that Hunter program on base here or on Wall Street. And it makes us better investors and it makes us better financial professionals. So
that's
it all
great.
kind of plays in together.
Yeah, no, that is really great, man. I definitely want to pick your brain a little more on that. So there was something that we started a while ago called ADPI Helps, right? And that was kind of this program that we had within our community that we wanted to offer folks that were experiencing, and maybe it was PTSD in some form, or they just needed some kind of support and outlet, to be able to find resources that can help them, right, in that regard. But I would love to, I know we're going to end up connecting offline after this for the podcast, but even further, I would love to see if maybe, you wouldn't mind speaking, to the group, because we get a bunch of regulars that come in and, it's just like you said, it's just another way to look at that mental toughness and use maybe investing as an outlet, right? To kind of help you refocus your mission, right? So when you lose one, you have another to pick up. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pretty active in the Canadian veteran community that does a lot of that too, is giving people purpose post-military and helping them really validate and then continue on with something else. But certainly I'd be happy to chat more.
Yeah, I love it.
Boy, bud, I think you was trying to add something.
Yeah, I was. Mike, would you mind going into the action takers only mastermind a little bit? Explain what that is and price point on it, and how do you get involved?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Action Takers Only Mastermind, or Operation Atom, if you're looking at it on our website, is essentially our single family and small multifamily residential track, right? So if you are just getting started, or maybe you've already gotten started in real estate and you're looking to, still just kind of operate within the smaller, more manageable units, right? Then that is the place for you to really connect and tap into a group of folks that are in that space and they're taking action, right? So in our Facebook group, we've got probably about 26,000 people now, right? And we're growing rapidly. But there's a lot of folks in there that maybe haven't taken action yet, or they're still really thinking about real estate. They're getting started. And so how do you, as someone who's already taken that action or is really trying to engage and start getting advice to help you into doing so, how do you find value from a group that big, right? And where maybe you ask a question and it just gets lost in the cosmos. Well, that's why we created Adam, right? And it was a group of action takers. It's a separate group, right? But a group of action takers, of people that are really looking for that hard-nosed advice. They don't want their questions to get lost in the sauce, and they really want to get going to build their career. And so that price point is $25 a month for the mastermind, right? If you want to continue to be a part of it. And it is, and it also comes with the Military Real Estate Investing Academy, which is our flagship course, right? So if you buy into that, you get access to the mastermind for a year, right? And that flagship course, again, is designed to help get you started, right? It help you understand the full cycle of real estate investing, not just, buying with your VA loan, but also implementing some, master via real estate investing strategies, right? Like seller financing, like raising capital, right? For deals if you don't have the capital, all that kind of stuff that ties into real estate. So, yeah.
All right, thanks for that. I have about 14 students now, and I got a bunch of airmen I'm going to be directing over to you. Would you mind doing the same thing for me about the multifamily?
Sure. Yeah. So, and thank you for that. The multifamily track is very similar but separate, right? And as it pertains to large multifamily. So once you cross the 5-unit mark, right, that's when you get into what's considered commercial multifamily. And that means that the valuation of the properties are no longer just valued based on the comps. They're valued based on the performance of the property itself, right? And so with our community, we've created a little sub community for folks that are focused only on those types of properties. And it's, residential multifamily, people living in them, right? We also talk about storage units, right? So if you're looking to get into storage space investing, we cover that. And those are really the primary two that we focus on. But right, very similar to Adam, it's a separate community of folks that are actively taking action, folks that are actively taking deals. And one of the things that we love about both of our communities is the encouragement for people to partner, right? When you're looking for someone to partner with and looking to build a team, there's no better place than to look where you're currently at in a mastermind with other people who are serious about getting started in real estate, people that are serious about taking action to benefit their lives. And we've had quite a few people within our communities partner together. We had one group that just closed on a 235 storage unit deal, right? And they posted about it on the Facebook. It was tremendous, right? But they all met in our community, they partnered together, and they tackled that deal together. And so that's one of the benefits about being a part of any mastermind, right? Whether it's this place here, don't be afraid to reach out and to partner with other folks, because if you're feeling like you're stuck, right, that's usually because there's a lack of motivation happening within you, and so sometimes you need that external motivation. So find someone who's like-minded to partner.
Can I ask one last follow-on question?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, awesome. When you're dealing with military personnel and you're dealing with multifamily, the issue with accreditation or sophistication comes up. And with the average salary of an E something and down, you're going to have a hard time hitting that accreditation. Do you guys have some kind of fund that they can get into that would assist them in non-accredited investor pools?
Stand by. That's all I can say.
I got it. I heard that on the radio today. You know what? I tell you what, I knew it. I knew where you were going.
You're absolutely right though, right? It is a major problem in our culture, right? Because we don't have access to a lot of resources. But yes, so stand by.
Outstanding.
Something's in
And
the
last
works.
thing, man, I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the way you support the community, and thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Bud with everything he just said at the last, man. Thank you, man. You guys are doing awesome, man, and inspiring a lot of people like myself, man. Speaking of that, we do have somebody who's overseas right now. Um, so what time is it now, Claudia?
It's 1:49, so it's
1:49
2 o'clock.
and
That's
1:49.
dedication right there. Dedication right there.
Ah, that's someone who's serious. Someone looking
Yeah,
for a partner. Claudia's the one to partner with,
yeah.
guys.
Me,
I'm just
me,
here for the
me,
knowledge.
yeah, me, Claudia, and Mr. 1031 are all part of the same mastermind group.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So Claudia, please ask your question. I know you got a question for Mike.
I do. So you mentioned about moving into like commercial real estate. Do you have currently any like commercial bigger units like in your portfolio, or is that a totally new venture for you? I'm just
Totally new
curious.
venture for me. Yes, Claudia, thank you for asking that. Yeah, it's completely new venture, and it's one that I've always wanted to get into, but it's not something that I want to get into lightly. And so I guess the closest that I have to it is a hotel investment that I made in Dubai 3 years ago before I left my last deployment. So that is a hotel, and it is operated as just a hotel. So I invested in that project, but I want to get into more of that like mall space, right? Commercial retail. And so I recently flew out to Miami just a couple weeks ago for a business conference, right, for 10X. And I met a commercial broker that we really meshed together, military background as well, but really just kind of meshed. And so I just recently formed a partnership with him and his team, and we're actively looking in Miami for those opportunities. So if I'm lucky enough, maybe next year I may have my first investment opportunity. So we'll see.
Hey, Mike, question. So
Yeah.
you have been to 10X what the last 3 years, something like that?
Yes, the last 3 years I've been to the growth conference. Right, it's an incredible.
Yeah. So please explain just the opportunities that you have gotten because of that.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, incredible networking, like you never find anywhere else because, again, you're putting yourself in the position of like-minded individuals and entrepreneurs. And these are folks from all over the world. And everyone has a story, everyone has a passion, everyone has a purpose. And so, in meeting these people, you end up finding yourself into crazy opportunities to do things that you maybe never thought you would do. But yeah, I ended up, or I have met a lot of individuals. I've found myself building a network and a mastermind of sorts with folks from all over the world. But more importantly, recently, having invested a little more into my business education and into the networking community, I've gotten the attention of Grant Cardone. I was recently. I didn't win. So I was in this boot camp, right? This mastermind boot camp that he had, and I won the ability to pitch Grant with 10 other people. Now, I didn't win that pitch, but I did get his attention enough where I kind of got like that second place, so to speak, where he didn't give me the money that was promised at the pitch for the winner, but instead he gave me books in support of this mission that I have coming on. That's really, really big I'm working on, But yeah, so that was great. And that was like my first in. Then when I invested in this Platinum Accelerator course, which is this business mentorship program, I ended up getting his attention again. And I have now the opportunity to partner with him as a licensee. And I'll be doing that here potentially in the next week or two, where the coaching programs that I offer now will have the full force and support of Grant Cardone's training staff and library, which will be interesting. So that's like the biggest opportunity that I've been in from that.
Wow. So this the opportunities, and I mean, this a network, and then being around people like him. I mean, that's just man. That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear. I was part of the Inner Circle program, and I had the ability to pitch too. I didn't pitch, but
Oh
man,
man, Come on. Missed opportunity, man.
Yeah, I know.
What'd you pitch? If you don't mind sharing. Was it?
Oh, what was that? What did I pitch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. So this stemmed from an idea that I had prior to COVID, and we ended up having to shut down because of it. But I wanted to, just like Aaron said earlier, right? There is no forum for military to be able to talk financially and to kind of, communicate on a deeper level. And so I wanted to create that. And ended up starting a movement called Operation Abundance. And the goal is to send 100,000 care packages to deployed forces around the globe. And I'm not sending care packages that are filled with candy or goods that just kind of get picked at and sit in the back of the fob. I'm sending educational resources, so books, right? And a digital library of courses that are donated from influencers all around the world. Grant gave 10,000 of his copies of the 10X rule book for this movement. And so we'll be sending those care packages out. And how we're doing it is by going into local military communities and creating packing events where folks from the community can come in and conveyor belt style, they'll go through, they'll build their box, they'll put in the materials, they can write a nice little note, right? And they'll get sent out and shipped overseas. And so we're starting our first event actually here in Hawaii, August 6th. And our goal is to raise for 2,000 packages that we can send out. So we'll be doing that. But you'll see us popping around the military communities around the country. So definitely looking forward to that.
Dang, I'm off mute. I
A
said,
question.
cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Go ahead. Who was asking a question? You asked me.
I did. Rhonda. Hi, how are you? I wanted to ask a question regarding the partnerships that you mentioned. You mentioned quite a few that you're going to partner up with. How is it that you determine a fit, a good partnership fit? When you're talking about massive projects, as you were speaking of, I've been in several partnerships, and they seem to go south, even though you have things lined up. It's just that somewhere along the line, people change and they're not focused on the same things. And so you have to make some moves. And I do want to make some big moves on some large property deals, commercial, as you're talking about. But it's going to take some partners to do that, what I want to do. And I wonder if you have a framework that you can share. Thank you.
100%, Rhonda. That's an incredible question. I actually have a question of my own for you. In these partnerships, do you find yourself as someone who is kind of in the background and kind of waiting for the next thing? Or are you the person that's kind of giving the direction and trying to make things happen?
I'm the 100% go-getter. I'm the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker.
I love it. I love it.
People find they don't have to do nothing because I'm doing it.
That is
Because
great.
at the time they're taking so slow. I'm like, okay, we need to get moving now.
Yeah, right. No, that is awesome. And so that's what I recommend. If you're finding partnerships that, end up going sour, sometimes it's two things, right? People do end up changing, priorities change, and that does happen. But oftentimes, more than not, it's a lack of, movement and momentum, right? From whoever is running this organization. And so, what I would do, and I would challenge you, the first thing, when you're picking partners that you want to partner with, your core values have to match, right? And sometimes that can be hard to tell because there are nice people and there are good people all over the place, right? So how do you really find out if your core values match? Relationships, right? I wouldn't get into a partnership with somebody unless I've had at least 3 or 4 conversations with them, and more than just business, about family, about life, about goals, about vision, right? Trying to figure out where they're going. Because if you guys, you might gel together, you might have entrepreneurial fire together, you guys might be in startup mode together, and you might be excited to go. But if you don't have the same end destination, at some point, you're going to veer off that path. And so you need to be able to figure out what that vision looks like, not only generally, but specifically, right? Specifically. And to be able to continue that communication. You know, I found that with the partnerships that have been most successful in my life, because I've had plenty of partnerships that have gone south too, right? But the ones that have been most successful, we've been able to communicate on a regular basis on more than just business, right? On life in general. And we communicate on a very periodic basis where it's consistent, right? It's known, right? Meaning they know it's happening, right? And they're excited. They're excited for those opportunities, right? Because it's almost like an escape from everything else. And, you know, Rhonda, you definitely, I love that fire and that passion that you have. I can already tell that you are the person that makes things happen. So I would invite you and encourage you to do whatever you can to make those meetings that you have periodically so desirable that these people don't even want to go anywhere else. They look forward to being a part of your team. Right? Because once you do that, once you tap into that and you're able to fill that void and that need for them, they're not going anywhere else. Even if life is going chaotic for them in other places, they'll look for you in that leadership and that relief. I hope that helps.
So
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries.
So I would say this too. I met Rhonda over on Clubhouse, and I tell you this, Mike, she's another person who has a great story in what she's doing right now. Just how helping homeless vets out in her journey, and she works with the VA in California, and what she's doing is awesome. And I'd love for you guys to connect as well.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely, Ron. I would love to connect with you.
Yeah, she's doing big things in California. She's helping a lot of veterans out in California with her work and things like that, and love it. So I'm really happy, really blessed to have Rhonda on here. So I'll give it like 2 or 3 more minutes. Anybody have any more questions for Mike? Oh, Mr. Tenderu, I gotta go.
My nights are pretty busy.
Look at your name. Look at the name of the meetup.
Once again, thanks again, Mike. Great value tonight, and always great hearing you talk.
Thanks so much, Kenneth. It was great to meet you. Take care.
Look at the name I gave to you, Kenneth, just to let you know.
What?
It says Mr. 1031 on your thing. Thanks a lot.
Mr. 1031.
Yeah.
That's it. 1031 exchange. Love it.
Oh man, we just do a lot of shenanigans around here. So anybody else have any more questions for Mike? Okay. So, all right, Mike, man, thank you so much, man. If you want to, you're more than welcome to come to the breakout rooms. We do about 2 breakout rooms, and we have the after party, which usually can go for 2 hours. Today we had to have a hard stop on it. But man, thank you so much, man. What I do right now, I go to roll call. And roll call is basically me shouting out military and civilian real estate groups people can join. So, and this is, and my people, my audience can tell you the first group I always mention is ADPI. So, as you guys see with ADPI, with Mike Foster, Tim Kelly, Eric Upchurch, Kevin Brenner, great guys. As you see, they have so many different programs. So look up adpi.com if you guys want more information. White Feathers, another military affiliate organization out of California. Try to get one of those guys on here at one point, but they're doing things as well. Let's see what else we have. We had the Wolverine Mastermind group, which me, Bud, Claudia, Mr. 1031, and others are part of as well. So you guys want to learn about that? It's $50 a month for a mastermind group for veterans and military. Please, you want to get with me, look at the Wolverine Mastermind group. Civilians, look at biggerpockets.com if anybody wants to be interested about biggerpockets.com. Great group. One of the biggest basic real estate groups around. Look up biggerpockets.com. Jamal King's Make Real Estate Real is a $1,000 course. It goes from A to Z on all things real estate. I know one of our attendees joined that group and loved it. And finally, Ring, Wholesale Real Estate Investment Group that I'm part of, and others who have been on here before. We have chapters in Washington State, California, North Carolina, New York, and more. So if you want to learn about